That was tense at the end there, Alex.
Yeah, I think much like the win at Alaves at the weekend in La Liga, Kate, it's a win, but that's all it is for Real Madrid. It's a deeply unconvincing performance, and it's not helpful at all, I think, in terms of Xabi Alonso's course for staying on as coach, because they were really hanging on, as you say, and he picked a strong team. He played Mbappé for 90 minutes. Thank goodness he did, because he scored twice and was involved in the third goal as well. You know, you're bringing on Jude Bellingham and Tchouaméni for the last 15 minutes, and there was no control of this game, and they were hanging on and needed a great save from Lunin right at the end to get that win. So, like I say, it's a victory. They're through to the next round, but nothing more. And if anything, I don't think this leaves Xabi Alonso in a stronger position as coach. In fact, I think the way they played, I think it weakens him.
Yeah, especially with the players that he had out there tonight, Craig.
Yeah, and we always say, well, it's all about results, but to Alex's point there, it's when you give it the eye test, which we have a lot with Real Madrid this season, particularly recently with all the draws away from home, when you take the result apart, you look at the opposition, you look at the Real Madrid team, you look at the players he selected, and you look at the performance again, there is nobody getting convinced here. Nobody. And the only thing he can throw at Florentino Perez and anybody who asks questions is, well, that's 2 wins. It's the only thing that he can throw, which, you know, I suppose is enough at this moment in time to keep his head above water. But if this kind of performance continues, I really don't think it'll be long before Real Madrid will make a decision. And even Xabi Alonso himself on the touchline he almost looks defeated, doesn't he? He almost looks, you know, it's like the life has been sucked out of him, the pressure. So yeah, unconvincing.
Do you know the one thing I was thinking about watching the game when I'm watching the first half and I'm looking at Xabi Alonso on the sideline. Real Madrid are playing against a nobody team, a team that nobody's ever heard of, certainly none of us, apart from yourself. But he's actually coaching as if it's Barcelona they're playing against. I mean, that kind of told me this guy's under pressure. You know, normally when you play against the side from a lower division like this, it's sit on the bench, you can sort of relax, you can trust the players to get on with it and do the right thing and be professional and just outplay the opposition. But clearly he himself isn't comfortable with what he's saying because he's on the touchline from the first minute to the last, coaching. That's not what you should be doing in this sort of situation.
And he's in a position where he's felt, and yesterday was different because Lamine Yamal played, but Hansi Flick isn't under as much scrutiny at the moment as Xabi Alonso. But that was a surprise because we always talk in this day and age about, you know, hear managers saying, well, I need to rest my star players, particularly the younger ones. And Barcelona didn't do that yesterday. And Xabi Alonso has felt he's had to go to his best player by a million miles who has been injured, who's not fully fit. And he's felt that he's had to play him, and he'll be thanking, as Alex said, thanking his lucky stars he did. But he's felt he's had to do that because they've been so poor that he's had to risk him against this third-tier team with all these other games coming up. I know there's a winter break coming and all that sort of stuff, but you can't afford to Kylian Mbappé to pick up a 6-week injury and miss the bulk of January when they come back from the winter break because they've played against a third-tier team. But he's felt he's had to play him in this game. That kind of tells you where they are.
There's been so much made of that, Alex. The fact that Kylian Mbappé started the game tonight and played throughout the whole thing. There's a lot of talk about that record chasing Cristiano Ronaldo for the optics and the PR right now. There's obviously what Craig's saying, that he's feeling that he's had to. What's been the take? Because it was a surprise to see him in the 11, wasn't it?
Yeah, I couldn't believe it, and no one else could either. Talking to colleagues who were there at the game, nobody there could believe it. The fans couldn't believe it. Nobody went to that game tonight expecting to see Kylian Mbappé. This is the kind of game where you play a front three of Endrick and Gonzalo and Mastantuono or Rodrigo or whoever, but you don't play Mbappé. There are only two possible reasons to play Mbappé. One is if he is indeed really bothered about chasing this goals in a calendar year record held by Cristiano Ronaldo. He went into this game 3 goals behind Ronaldo. It's now down to 1. Maybe. I don't know how much Kylian really cares about that, but maybe. The other reason is quite simple. It's Xabi Alonso trying to save his job and having to pick his best player because they need him. And as it turned out, he was absolutely right. They did need him. Like I say, he was involved in all 3 goals. If he hadn't have been there, this might have been a very different story. So it was the right decision from Xabi Alonso to pick Mbappé. Like, I'm not criticizing him for that, but the fact that he had to make it says an awful lot.
I mean, no player should ever dictate if they play, and I'm not suggesting that he has. And no manager should ever allow that to happen. But I would imagine he's picked him more for the fact that he's under so much pressure. But dare I say, had he picked up a really bad injury in this game, that would have been a sacking offence on its own. I think Florentino Perez could have fired them off the back of Mbappé missing. Say one of these lads, it's their big night. Somebody goes in or a heavy tackle from and he's out for 3 months. That's it. I think somebody's going to say, why the hell have you played him in this game? And now you're going to derail our whole season because he's carrying the team. So that was a huge decision on both fronts. A, in the results front, the performance, but B, if he'd picked up something nasty in this game, that would have been Real Madrid's season over anyway, because we know how bad they've been when they've been relying on him.
I don't think there can be any other reason than Mbappé wanted to play 90 minutes. And he is chasing this record.
What does that tell you about Xabi Alonso's management then?
Weak.
If it is,
Well, see,
if that's the case, it's weak.
Well, there's 2 things. So the first thing I would say is, if Xabi Alonso was playing Mbappé because he wanted to make sure they won the game, then at 2-0 he would have brought him off. Because that's what a sensible, normal coach would do. I mean, most coaches wouldn't have played him, but the fact that he played him when it's 2-0, every single person on the planet pretty much thought this game was over. So if that was why you were playing him, you're pulling him off. The fact that he never took him off tells you that Mbappé wanted to play and he's let him play. So the question is he weak or is he looking after his back because he's got to keep Kylian Mbappé happy?
I've just been told in my ear, he's not said too much afterwards. Xabi Alonso has been asked why Mbappé played the full 90 and he said because he scores goals, which, he did prove to in this game, of course.
Because we're not very good. And once again, we're relying on this player to bail us out, which they are.
And there's a big game at the weekend, obviously, to round out the calendar year, Alex, against Sevilla, and all eyes once again on Xabi Alonso, who's very much under pressure.
Yeah, the pressure, like I say, it hasn't diminished at all this week. If anything, it's grown with the nature, I think, of these last 2 performances. We've been saying for a few days now that we don't expect anything to happen this week in terms of Xabi Alonso's future because there's no time. They played at Alaves, they've played in the Copa at Talavera, and now they're hosting Sevilla on Saturday. If anything happens, it would come after that. The question would be, would it happen during that winter break, or will he have a little bit more time and maybe the chance to try and win a trophy in the Super Copa in January? Will the Super Copa, where you're going to be playing against Atletico Madrid, the team that hammered Real Madrid earlier this season in La Liga, and then Barca or Athletic Club in the final, and you win a trophy, that could be a lifeline and that would keep him going. By contrast, if they lose heavily, as they did to Barca in the Super Copa last year, remember, 5-2, then it might well be goodbye. But yeah, Xabi Alonso going into this game against Sevilla, once again, knowing that Madrid have to win, but not just have to win, would really need to make some more convincing arguments that they are making progress, that they're heading in the right direction. If not, it's going to be a pretty uncomfortable Christmas time, I'm afraid, for Xabi, I think.
Is there any rumours around in Madrid, Alex, about, swirling around that if they do get rid of him, who might come in even as a sort of short term to the end of the season? Is that even being discussed at the moment? Is that in the newspapers over there?
Yeah, in the last few days, the talk has been of Alvaro Arbeloa, who's the coach of the reserve team, Castilla. He's been at the club coaching at the academy for a while. Of course, he's a former Real Madrid player as well as playing for Liverpool and so on. He's a guy that's really highly rated inside the club, well liked inside the club. He's viewed as being really a club man. He is vocal and passionate in terms of sort of putting the club's perspective out there. And so the talk is that he would be the internal solution, whether that is on a short-term basis or to the end of the season or whatever. But he's the one that's being talked about right now, whereas other names that had previously been linked to the job, the likes of Zidane, the likes of people talk about Jurgen Klopp and things like that, those names seem less plausible for various reasons. Arbeloa is the one that's being talked about in recent weeks. In terms of internal solutions, there are others. We saw at the game tonight that Santi Solari was there, sat alongside Roberto Carlos in the stands. Of course, Solari has previously come in a sort of firefighting role and taken over the team mid-season when things haven't been going well. It didn't go particularly well for Solari last time, but still he is well liked and respected at the club, and he's another name who potentially has been talked about in the past who could come in some kind of interim role.
Yeah, they definitely need
And
a
he'll
good
be reading
result.
all these things, Xabi Alonso, as
Yeah.
well. So I mean, he knows where he stands. He's on the hot seat, and there's no getting away from it.
Yeah.